Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jillian Carter. I'm the Director of Advancement at Heritage Christian Services. This is the last of our Wednesday webinar series, which we began earlier this year, just as a way to stay connected and offer some information about different areas and programs that we offer, and just a way to see faces and stay connected. So thank you for joining us. This particular webinar is Aging in Place Safely and Comfortably. We within the next hour, are going to learn a little bit about how Heritage Christian Services is adapting to the needs of the aging population who choose our services, specifically in our residential program, and how changes allow for our care professionals to better support those who choose our services. So thank you all for joining. We do have a number of questions that we'll be asking our panelists. We have a lovely group of folks here joining us today. We have identified some questions in advance. I would ask that if you do have additional questions that you just include those in the chat. And then at the end of our time together, we will address those. And if by chance we run out of time, we'll reach out to folks separately, just so that we can answer that question for you. At the end of the session, we will provide a link to a survey. I would ask if you could kindly complete that survey. Your feedback is important to us, and it will help inform, the things that we do moving forward, including these webinars and different events. So appreciate that in advance. Before I begin, I'd like to share some facts regarding our residential program to set the stage a bit for this evening's content. More than half of those we support in residential services are living with medical complexities, are over 60%. And, over 60% of them are 50 or older, 50 years of age or older. While we're exceptionally pleased with the medical advances that have extended life expectancies, we are still challenged to provide them the opportunity to stay in their homes while facing chronic and life-threatening health issues or end-of-care life. And we are focusing on creating safer open floor plans with increased accessibility all on one floor. And that allows us to enhance our ability to provide care to people. As I mentioned, we have an incredible team here who all play a crucial role in supporting the folks we support. And at this time, I'd like to kick it off with our first question of the evening, and then each panelist will go ahead and introduce themselves, their name, their title, and what they do, or how long, rather, they've been at Heritage Christian Services. I'm going to go ahead and start with Kathy McCarthy. Kathy, if you could kick off our first question, which is, what does aging in place mean to you?
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Jillian. Like Jillian said, my name is Kathy McCarthy, and I'm the Director of Residential Services here in the Finger Lakes at Heritage Christian. And I've been with Heritage for 29 years this month. So certainly I've seen many people that we support who choose our services age, and it is our desire to support people living in their home as long as they're able, with their friends, in their community, surrounded by people who care about them, who are familiar with them. So that's what it looks like for me. Whatever we can do to support that person in their home, stay with friends and family, nuclear family in the home and within their community. That would be our desire for a person supported.
Thank you, Kathy.
Welcome.
Liz?
I'm Liz Griskowiak. I'm a physical therapist, and I've been with Heritage for 21 years. Kathy really said it all. It's kind of, letting the individual stay where they're familiar, their familiar friends, familiar staff. That's super important for someone who's aging. So as long as we can kind of make the environment safe for the individual, that they can stay there, that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Robin?
I'm Robin Hughes, and I'm the occupational therapist here at Heritage in the Buffalo area. And I think aging in place to me means being able to stay in your community, as Kathy and Liz both said, being able to be surrounded by people who care about you, and also being able to continue to engage in the things that are most important to you, whether that's participating in the community or being able to continue to do hobbies, being independent with your activities of daily living, whatever it is that's most important to you.
Thank you, Robin. I'll turn it to Sherry, and then from there we can go to Amelia and Jessica, please.
Hello, my name is Sherry Greekar. I work in the Buffalo area and I'm a part of the Faith Community Inclusion Team. And aging in place, I guess, means to me supporting every area where the person is actually at. And that is always changing. That can be emotional for the person aging, depending on their challenge, and the caregivers. So I find a lot of times the team that I work with, we try to soften some of those edges with the leadership team, the direct support staff, and some of the clinicians as well. So it takes everyone's participation to kind of evolve with those challenges or setbacks we might have, and it's ever changing. So we have to be flexible in it.
Okay. Hello, my name is Amelia Hebing, and I'm a registered nurse. I've been with Heritage for 6 years. Okay. Aging in place means to me not having to leave your home, and definitely not leaving your home due to age or because we couldn't support you in your home. This has already been your home, and to me, aging in place means getting to stay there.
Hi, I'm Jessica Smith. I'm a residence manager. I've been with Heritage for 7 years. To me, aging in place means aging exactly how and where someone chooses to. Supports, medication, and routines may change, but surroundings stay familiar and adapt to changes that come along with aging.
Thank you. Jessica, as she mentioned, is a residential manager at one of our homes, and Jessica is going to share just a little bit of her experience with her time there over the past 7 years, and maybe a story or two.
Yeah. So I have an example. When we were supporting someone's health who began to decline quickly, our team realized that they would need different supports. So with this in mind, we felt that their bedroom closer to the med room was space where they would be able to receive medication quicker, staff being able to get to them faster in the medical emergencies, and be able to take their vitals in a quieter space. We spoke to their other housemates, and we were actually able to swap bedrooms with them and get them a room that was closer to the med room to offer them those things, you know, getting to them faster in those medical emergencies, offering them a quieter space to come into the med room, get their vitals taken. That was just one example. Another example is we supported someone who was going through a difficult medical challenge, and they seen many providers, and they were told that they needed to make a lifestyle change. And with this lifestyle change, it really impacted the quality of their life negatively. So after working with PT and OT, we were able to give this person some alternatives. With the lifestyle change, it would have them lie on their back more, being in their wheelchair more, when they really preferred to lay prone and not be in their wheelchair as much. So like I said before, when working with PT and OT, we were really able to work together and get a plan in place and get some supports together to really offer this person more comfortable positioning in plans, and still they had a healthy lifestyle change. So it worked for both aspects.
Thank you, Jessica. As Jessica mentioned, and even in the introductions of the folks sharing a little bit about what aging in place means to them, I think we've heard how the teams work together. And that leads me to the next question is, how do the teams at Heritage Christian Services work together to provide supports for someone as they age and their needs changed? Sherry, can we have you start with that question, please?
Sure. And I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I've been around for about 19 years. So I think we spoke a little bit about this in preparation for this webinar yesterday, that someone may see change with one of the individuals we're working with. And this could be inspired by maybe the residence manager or a clinician or a day hab manager may notice like, wow, this person isn't maybe walking as good as they used to, or you can see a possible decline with them. And from there, that usually inspires a team meeting where family may or may not be participating. They may have even urged the conversation to get going. And in that case, the teams would gather, the residence manager, the OT, the PT person, the house nurse may gather. There may be even other friends and community connections that would gather to really honor the wishes of the person and to see how we could surround them with support and possibly even new and creative ideas. I loved hearing what Jessica said. Somebody makes a suggestion and then we really rally around that individual with supports and services, and a lot of creativity and love goes into that that care. So I think that's kind of the start of it.
You know, Sherry, I'd like to add to.
Kathy, you are muted right now, sorry.
Sorry. I just wanted to add, you know, when you talked about the team, it's really important to recognize the value and the support that the DSP staff provide. They're very much included. You know, right now we have, you know, a bunch of clinicians and, you know, the director, and Sherry's in faith inclusion. It's really important that we get the DSPs involved, because really they're going to spend the most time with that person, and they're likely going to be the first people to notice those maybe little subtle changes that that person may be having. So I just wanted to make note of that you know, when we talk about the team, it definitely includes the DSPs, the direct support professionals who work really every day with the individuals.
I think that I've been here for 5 years. I didn't mention that either earlier. I think it truly does take a village. And when, you know, you have good relationships with the managers, the clinicians, the DSPs, the, you know, med liaisons, every part of the team, when you build those good relationships and something, an individual is in need, then I have never had a problem with someone reaching out to me and saying, this is what's happening and can you help us, and, you know, and trying to find a way to help that individual. I think communication is an important part of that. And, you know, just the desire to help, which, you know, the DSPs who are there all day, every day, are on the front lines doing.
Thank you. Jessica, Amelia, or Liz, do you have anything else to add to that? Liz, you were muted, sorry.
Sorry, I was having computer issues. Same with like what Robin, you know, kind of said, a lot of times the direct support professionals are the ones that are seen at first, but they're also the ones that we need to go to, that when we want to put something in place, you know, what would be the best time to do this? How does it work in their schedule the best? You know, because it's not all about, we want this to happen. How is it going to be successful? So definitely including everyone, you know, but then when we're ready to put it in place, you know, make sure that, you know, it's going to work for that individual too.
Yeah, I was just going to add the same thing. What I really appreciate about Heritage is that we have in-house clinicians, we have speech, we have OT, PT. So whenever there's an issue, even if it's something small, it's just a matter of sending an email, coordinating them to come out, and they can get prompt evaluations. And then that sets the, you know, that sets the ball so that we can get other referrals out. So usually we're pretty fast about making sure that we're checking into things.
Thank you. The next question we have is, each of you play a different role in offering supports to those who choose our services. Can you share an example of something you've done to provide opportunities for someone to be able to live in their home without having to go elsewhere for end-of-life care? I'm going to begin with Liz on this one. Oh, Liz might have just left us. I'm going to begin with Robin on this one.
Well, I think that everybody has such individualized care. I think it depends on what it is that they're struggling with. There are times when adaptive equipment needs to be used, whether it's to help them get dressed or to brush their teeth or in the shower. We go in and we look at, we had an individual who lived in an apartment and was having trouble getting out of the couch. So it could be something off of the couch. It could be something as simple as making sure that the furniture is appropriate for the setting or for the individual that's there. We have, other we have some sites that are individuals live in an apartment, and then we have somewhere there's 24-hour care. So it all depends on what that individual is in need of.
Thank you. Sherry?
I was going to just share, this is more of a personal example. When my grandfather was aging and he really wanted to be in his home, some of the things that we did was have a schedule. So we went in at intermittent times, so we knew he ate. So we would have, he had a nurse in the morning. Someone would go over and have lunch with him. Someone would sign up and go over and have dinner. And then we had someone special come in with his night routine. And we did that every single day. We had a monthly schedule that we all went by. My mom, the month would come close to an end and she'd get us all signed up for our times. And we shared that. We spread that across the family. So it wasn't just one person. Another thing was the Life Alert. He wore a necklace that he had access to. And then another thing that had happened with someone that I worked with at Heritage, we were really struggling with meeting the 3-minute requirement to leave the home safely in a fire drill. So we actually pulled in resources from the fire department, and they came in and they worked with our maintenance team, which is another aspect of adjusting. As we age, we pull maintenance in, and they are so gracious and hardworking. But they helped collaborate with the fire department to make some adjustments. And we went, I think, from 3 minutes to 8 minutes, and all we needed was 1 extra minute to really get out. But that was a learning process, and we pulled in the resources and made the adjustments, and we stayed in the same home. So that was great.
Thanks, Sherry.
I'm gonna answer this one. If I could just share a story. So this was when I first started here. It was my first year working at Heritage, and it's actually, this story really stayed with me, and it's actually the reason I'm still employed at Heritage. It really just meant the world to me that I was working for a company that was willing to knock down walls for somebody. So I had an individual that became acutely ill, and he was in the hospital, and we were trying to arrange everything for him to be able to come home. But by that point, he had congestive heart failure. He couldn't make it up the stairs to his bedroom. And so that became a problem. It was unsafe for him to go up the stairs. And the only other option was to move the dining room. And I remember sitting and talking with everybody. It was almost like I was an event planner. I was talking to, our construction guys. They were going to build up walls, and we were already planning, where's the equipment going to go, and this, because and it's hard for me to talk about it without getting emotional. We were willing to put up walls so that this person could come home and pass the rest of his days with his friends and family. And that just blew my mind. I had never worked for an organization that was willing to remodel downstairs so that he could come home. Unfortunately, he was too sick to make it home, but it really meant a lot to me that we were willing to modify the home, whatever it was going to take to have him come home with his family. And so that really and I remember collaborating with everybody, the hospital, hospice care, just in case he did come home, with our maintenance team. I mean, I really did feel like I was an event planner, but it was all worth it to see him come home.
And something you mentioned too, in my experience, hospice, I think it's really impressive too, in my experience, when someone was near the end of life, the idea of hospice, in addition to the nursing staff that we already have at the house, hospice was going to come in and support someone with end of life care as well. And not only were they going to come in, but the agency provided some training for this part of this person's life. And then there was also additional support with LPNs coming in and health support professionals. And then, right before we knew that this person was entering that point in their life or were there, the celebrations of their life, they may have not been able to get out, but to do the things they wanted to, but we were able to bring them to them and really celebrate their life as well.
You asked a question about what my role is in supporting people. Having this experience, 29 years of experience working at Heritage Christian Services, it's understood that there isn't, not everyone has that same experience, right? So part of my role is to provide that guide and that support to teams, because it can be a little bit frightening, I suppose, when you have a person who is vibrant and young and they're aging and now their life is significantly impacted by their health. So, we do provide a lot of support to the program, kind of coordinating all the services that they need, but really encouragement to the team that they are doing well and they do well, and they do great work. So I think that is a part of my role, is to really just continue to reinforce that we will do it and whatever it takes. And so I just wanted to share that from my perspective in my role.
Thank you, Kathy. Liz, do you have anything to add?
Remind me what question we're on, because my computer went down, sorry.
I know. Sorry, we lost you.
Yeah.
Each of you play a different role in offering supports to people that who choose our services. And can you share an example of something that you've done to be able to allow somebody to live their life in their home without having to go elsewhere for end of life care?
Okay, so I'm sure Robin may have already touched on this because I only heard the end of what she said. I know a lot of times we'll go in and make different recommendations, like maybe someone now needs a walk-in shower and start that process. So then everyone kind of knows, then maintenance, everyone else gets involved to say, yes, we need to do this. Yes, we can do this in this space, and kind of get that done. Just, changing the environment, whatever. It can be simple as easy as pulling up throw rugs that they can't use, putting in grab bars, which I'm sure, Robin, you went all there with that. But just, those easy things, but it'll make staff's lives and the individual's life so much easier. So that's, really important for us to kind of see that, but then also go forward, educate staff and get things changed.
Thank you so much. So we've, I know that Sherry mentioned a little bit about bringing in outside community resources to assist in identifying ways that they can gain some more time during their fire drills that can happen as frequently as once a month. I didn't ask her if she would do this, but I'm going to ask Kathy if she'd be willing to share a little bit about the life safety. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, where for fire drills.
Yeah.
More time. Do you mind just speaking about that a little bit?
Many of our homes are what we would refer to as life safety code. And those life safety codes have features within those homes that allow for a greater amount of time before you need to evacuate. So you can really methodically, slowly, safely evacuate people. And those features aren't in every home right now, but we have moved toward really installing those features so the individuals can remain in their home and they can have that longer period of time so they can exit safely. And I think it's really important to know that 13 minutes is a really long time to get somebody out of their home safely. But even if it takes a little longer than that, remember, with the safety features that they have that include fire doors, emergency lights, and sprinklers, most specifically, it does allow for them to stay in their home a lot longer.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, the next question is, what are examples of things you've done to keep people engaged if they are experiencing increased issues with mobility or cognitive abilities? and can no longer attend programs they may have in the past, including day programs. Liz, would you mind kicking us off?
Sure. So sometimes those treatment team meetings we've kind of have talked about before, but sometimes when we have those, talking to staff, talking to even family members of maybe some things that people may have enjoyed doing in the past that they may still enjoy doing are things that we can kind of bring, together and kind of create a big list of these are things that so-and-so enjoys. And then trying to figure out throughout the day, knowing that their schedule may change, minute to minute, that we can provide them with these opportunities of, different activities that they may enjoy. So it may not be them going out to do something, it may be, bringing things into them, or just taking, like, if it's a really nice day, you can get outside and go do something, doing that too. So a lot of it is a collaborative, experience with everyone trying to figure out what will work the best for the individual.
Thank you. Robin, do you have anything to add to that?
I think it's important to mention too that, identifying what they want to do and developing compensatory strategies and using adaptive equipment maybe to help them do those things is very important. But educating the staff is really a big part of our role. How to use the adaptive equipment, how to use it with the individual, how to engage with an individual who can no longer speak or has never been able, who's been nonverbal. Really educating people on that engagement part and engaging in things that are important to the individual, whether that comes from, like Liz said, from the family or, the people that have worked with them for a long time. The engagement part is really the most important part. And I think that we have really good staff and they are very good at doing those things. And they do reach out and ask, if they don't know how to do something, which is important, whether the managers are reaching out for them or we'll walk into a home and they'll tell us right away, this is what's happening, how can we help?
Thank you. Sherry? Sherry, you're muted.
So some of the things I was thinking of that you're constantly adjusting. So you're really watching for the reaction of the individual you're supporting. And we do that naturally, I think, as supporters of others, providing care. But some of the things that I found were consistent as the person was aging and really in the point of declining and kind of to a point of hospice support, music and movement, comfort, physically adjusting, of course, always feeling fresh. And you had to be sensitive and intuitive with some of that personal care because, really sitting on a toilet might not have been as easy as it used to be. So being really sensitive and intuitive to that personal care. And then recognizing with an individual that I happen to work with, she always loved humor, like she loved humorous programs. But even in her wheelchair, I felt like we couldn't get her close enough to the TV to like gain some of that. And I remember we were always adjusting, so we'd get her comfortable in a comfortable chair, and we just had it as close as we could to the TV, and you could hear that chuckle. She started to lose her words near the end, but that laugh was so hearty, and I think we can all agree that that's quite therapeutic. Also, we've kind of mentioned this along the way, really being sensitive to the other people that live with that individual because they see changes. So really, again, we're careful of what we share specifically, but they see changes and feel changes and see the rally of support looking different. So being sensitive to what they're experiencing, and also helping share the attention in that setting too is another thing. So engaging, it's going to always look a little different, I find, along the way. So and a lot of times I find like we'll have talks about that, team talks about we're adjusting. This is what it looks like now. And, you know, morning might look better than evening, and we need to be sensitive to that.
Thank you. Jessica or Amelia, do you have anything to add?
I think going with the person's flow, I think everyone's different. Everyone's needs and supports are different. Really getting to know them and understanding that every day may be different for them as well. For example, I supported someone who really enjoyed live concerts. But they got to a point where their health declined and they couldn't tolerate the crowd, the people, but we were still able to offer them the live concerts on the computer with headphones, and they really enjoyed that and still seemed to be having a really good time. So being creative, thinking outside of the box, but still offering them the things they really like as they tolerate it.
I was gonna mention, just recently, our Diane helped us all put together Price is Right game for one of our ladies that was passing, and it was her favorite thing. That's the only thing she would ever say is, "Come on down." So when she was getting, you know, towards her end there, they set up a beautiful game for her to play, and she won all the prizes, and that just meant a lot to her. And that just, to me, that they could all come together and put that on for her just meant the world to me. So
Great story. And Diane is with us as well. Nice job, Diane. Anyone else? Okay. All right, the next question is, as a person ages and they are no longer able to travel in a car, how will they have transportation and access to their community? Could I start with Kathy?
Yeah. So when a person ages, they may not be able to use like their typical or traditional vehicle. So some of the things that we've done and is plan for that. You know, we can kind of project what, you know, a person's health might look like in the next couple of years, and we might plan to get a new vehicle in that home that is accessible. But we're really fortunate to have a lot of neighboring homes that will allow for us to use those vehicles in the event that we need them. So certainly we do the best we can to support that person, have access to their community, make it to appointments safely and comfortably. So ultimately we would long-term plan for that if that was necessary. But in the short term, we would just utilize other programs for support.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything additional to add to that? Okay. Okay, before I ask this next question, I just want to preface, many of you may have joined us for last month's webinar that was titled Walking Through the Last Season of Life with Your Loved One. Ruth Benjamin spoke a lot about different things that could be done and you know, things that should be thought of in advance. And if you didn't have an opportunity to tune into that webinar, we do have that recorded. In fact, all of our past webinars have been recorded and are available on our YouTube channel. The specific one I'm referring to, again, Walking Through the Last Season of Your Loved One's life, I will include in this chat if you're interested, and you can see the other ones as well. I share that because Ruth goes in depth on the answering some of this that you could pull, but I know that Amelia has offered to share just a brief overview. So the question is, what can families do to assist in providing care for an aging loved one, whether in a Heritage Christian home or living at home with their families?
okay. Yeah, so what I've seen working here is, first of all, I was a shock when I realized that, you know, when most of us end up in the hospital, they offer us a pink form to sign. Here's a MOLST form. What do you want your end of life wishes to be? And as long as the doctor signs it, it is a legal document. In this setting, it is not. There's a 6-step process. There's paperwork. There's lawyers involved. So and a lot of families don't know this. So as a nurse, I find myself having to be the one to explain these things. So what I tell people to do is it's never too early to start having these conversations. It might seem a little morbid, but it's not. It happens to everybody. And, you know, if we start to plan and even have the individual even plan things, what colors do they like? It's not, it can be turned into a nice conversation to have, to know what everyone's wishes are. And even if they cannot be made legal, I always tell people, you know, put your wishes on a letter and keep it in front of the chart. So if something were to happen down the line, we can at least consider those wishes, right? It's not legal, but at least we understand where they're coming from. But again, to me, it's just having open conversations with family, with friends of things that you're seeing, and having them be able to help plan it.
Thanks, Amelia. Anyone have anything else to add to that? Thank you. And again, I did include the link to that YouTube recording, so feel free to listen in on that. The last question that we have, and then we can open it up to guest questions. If a person is aging and they have significant health challenges, i.e. Dementia, will they be able to remain in their home safely, and what can we do? What do we do to provide supports for that? I see Sherry nodding, and that means to me that she would like to answer this question.
So I was kind of waiting for that opportunity when many years ago, when we started noticing some signs of dementia with one of the individuals that lived in the home. We actually just reached out to the Alzheimer's Association and we started getting information. We had them come and visit the house, and we just started kind of familiarizing ourselves with what could happen, what does it look like. Again, we rallied around with team meetings, and that was a slow process for that person that we were supporting. So again, you're always adjusting, you know, ebbs and flows of how things are going. And sometimes it might take an outside source to give us a nudge like, hey, that's looking different, or that looks different at day program, or do you notice this? So we really appreciated the information we gained. And, you know, I think even as an agency, I hope Robin speaks on it. She does a training that is really just so precious to me, and I could hear it over and over again. So, but we have wonderful resources. I think Amelia said right here at Heritage Christian Services, but we're not opposed to learning new things and reaching out to collaborate with other organizations.
I think she set you up there, Robin. We'd love to hear.
Thanks, Sherry. So we have a program that we do that we go in, it's a staff training. So once somebody's been identified as having dementia, and I just want to mention that it's hard for the staff too. You know, sometimes they've been in these homes for a very long time. They've known these people for a very long time, and they are just, they're unwilling or unable to realize that this is a dementia diagnosis, that this is what's going to happen, that they are going to decline. And, you know, they'll make excuses for why they can't do something. Oh, that's just so-and-so, but they'll be fine. You know, that it's just a bad day. We hear a lot of that, you know, so it's really hard on the staff too. But we do a training where we take in sunglasses and we make them wear gloves, and we have a step of 5 things that they have to do, and the staff themselves, while we're educating the staff, and there's 5 things they have to do, and they have to do it. We spread things all over the house, and they have to find the things that they need, and they have to complete the task, and they can't talk to each other, and they have sunglasses on and they can't feel right because they have gloves on, and we're walking around the whole time going, come on, hurry up, why haven't you done this? How come you haven't completed this task? Let's go, because a lot of times that's what happens. You know somebody is able to do something and you just assume that they're going to continue to be able to do it, and they're not. And so it's kind of giving an understanding of what it's like to have dementia, and have people just talking at you the way that sometimes happens, and realizing that you're going to have to find another way to communicate, and you're going to have to take your time, and you're going to have to, give them the sometimes just some TLC that they need to get through tasks that they're expected to do, or and provide encouragement for that too.
I was gonna add the gemstones training it's really helps that sensitivity as the stages vary.
So after we do this, we have a calm down period because it's very stressful. It's extremely stressful to have someone, if you can't remember all 5 things and, you have sunglasses on and you have, our prism glasses on and you have gloves on, so you can't feel right, you can't see right, you can't, there's all of these deficits that are occurring. And we have a cool down period afterwards where we talk about how did you feel and what kind of experience was this for you. And then we talk about the GEMS. I don't know if people are familiar with the GEMS. It's a dementia, almost like it talks about the way that people age and how they go through the steps of dementia. And it starts with the emerald, which is green, and you can, go, everything's good. And then at the end is the ruby, which is stop, and where people are no longer able to do things. And you do have to provide a lot more assistance and stuff. And there's also, I think, a pearl in there where, they're like an oyster, and every once in a while it opens up and you can see the pearl. So you'll get that little bit of them, how they were before, as Sherry was talking about, the music. Oh, I almost said her name. The music and the funny, the comics and the laughter, and every once in a while you'll see stuff like that. And we find now that they're actually calling us and asking us to come and do those trainings. So it's really becoming more wanted, or more, they want us to do it. So that's wonderful too.
Some of you mentioned that, already, that when a person is aging, and in this case has dementia, we meet them where they're at, right? So we have staffing 24 hours a day. And, unlike maybe a typical home, or maybe even like a nursing or a skilled facility, there isn't usually a wake staff. There's wake staff on the nursing home likely, but, we've seen people who sundown or their days get flip-flopped, right? So we don't tell them it's time to go to bed if they're wide awake and they sleep during the day. Again, we allow for that, like their day to be dictated by kind of how they're feeling that day. And it's just important to note that we have the supports available to them if they needed that, which might look very different for other people.
And it's important to note too, even if they aren't having dementia or whatever, you need to meet people where they're at, just declining health and aging. People go through it differently, and there's not a set way of doing it. And there's not a set, we have an outline for how things should go, but they don't always go that way. So I think meeting up, like Kathy said, meeting them where they're at is really important.
Feel like we have a lot of resources as well. And then I also feel like as a manager, I have resources, and then we have resources that I as a manager provide to the direct support professionals. And we're really consistent with the care for the people that we support, working with the clinicians, taking them to appointments, offering them different supports that really keeps them safe in their home and allows them to age however they would prefer to do so.
And kind of like what you were saying, Robin, just like with their ADLs and being able to do things, sometimes even just with aging, it's energy conservation. It's that they can't maybe do the whole ADL at that time. So maybe they're going to, take their bath at this time, but staff now needs to do, half of it, versus where they used to be able to do all of it. Or maybe they need to sit instead of stand. So it's a lot of just reevaluating, the individual, and then, educating staff. This is why we're doing this. It's getting too hard. They're really tired afterwards. They need to take a break. They need to take a nap in the morning. All those little things, not with just dementia, but with aging, that you have to kind of think about as their, mobility and just their ability to do things. But that in-service, Robin, is an awesome in-service that you guys give. So.
I had one more thing that we didn't talk about, but it's been really precious, the support that we've received from the speech pathologist. Some of the things we might have to do is adjust how we prepare a meal. The consistencies may look different. We may use a thickener in a drink. And sometimes as things progress, maybe we don't eat as often, or maybe we crave sweets. So we incorporate a little something sweeter into what we're eating or drinking. So we're really being really sensitive to the needs of that individual. And then as things do even progress, we love to feed people, and that just is how many of us show love, but we might have to pull back a little, like maybe now's not the time. They might be too tired. They might, again, I think Liz just said, maybe they're taxed. So maybe before they used to do all of this, but we're doing more hand over hand. We're giving more support. So that's a real, it's a huge part of a person's life. And also being sensitive for mealtime, that might look different. Like we were talking about bedtime looking different. That might look different too.
Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate everyone answering those questions that were predetermined. I see that we do have one question in the chat. Molly, it seems you're still with us. Do you want to go ahead and ask that question for us?
Hi, I am Molly Zern, AVP of Rehab for People Inc. And I am just so thrilled to be able to feel as though we're not alone. All of you are talking about the experiences that we have every day, just in a different company, and I'm so glad to see that there is clinical supports at the residences. And I'm wondering if that's something that you bill for, or does Heritage just hire therapists and then pay their salary to be able to support the people with an expertise from like PT, OT, or speech?
I'm trying to unmute. So we don't like formally bill, their insurance for that type of service. Kathy, now you're gonna have to help me with this. I think there are like monies that goes to each, IRA for us to be there, but it's not like I go out and see patient X, and if I go to see patient X, the insurance company is paying Heritage this much. Not like outpatient or an Article, 16 clinic. So for those services, we just, as they call, we go out, we see them, we do what we need to do, educate the staff, and kind of work that way.
Yeah, Liz is right. So each home, certainly the rates, the clinical support is built into the rates for the people we support. And depending on the individual, they may have more support. You may see people more often, and some people may be on consult, so you don't see them often, and we may call in. That's really the benefit that we have of having these available clinicians. And the great thing is that when there's multiple clinicians, or for the organization, that there is really never a gap when there's an absence, whether that be a holiday or just time away. And then the individual clinicians get to know most all of the individuals in one way or another. So we really are blessed to have the clinicians, but it is built into the rates of for each IRA.
How many IRAs do you support?
65 in total. There's 49 here in Rochester and 16 in Buffalo.
Thank you, Molly. I know we have a few other friends on the call here. Would anyone else like to ask any questions since we have a few more minutes? Questions or comments, I should say. Okay. Well, yes. Oh, Emily, thank you for sending that. I do want to just kind of close and thank our panelists so much for your time and for sharing your experiences. I think the overarching theme that I feel here is, the individualized care for people and finding what's meaningful to them and being able to adjust, whether it's environmental modifications at a home to be able to allow them to age in place, or, the teams who come together. It's just very impressive, and all to support people so that they can age in place. I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much. Again, the survey link is here in the chat. So if you do have an opportunity, again, thank you in advance. We would appreciate your feedback so that it can help us better our webinars and events in the future. And we thank you for all your time. We will be sending a recording of this out to everybody, and the survey link will be in there as well. Thank you all again for joining. Appreciate your time.
Jillian, we have a
Hi.
question.
The Catones, yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, it was on mute before. I didn't realize it. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Quick question. Does all these opportunities, are they also available to the pros? Like our David?
It's not likely, Mrs. Catone. He lives in an independent home supported
Uh-huh.
by, what is it, community have staff or self-hire staff. So it's not likely the same level of support would be provided, given the resources that are available to the individuals who live within the Crows.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering about that.
Yeah. We have most recently had a person who lived within the customized residential options or move. He was living independently. He was beginning to age and he could no longer live as independently as he wanted. And because his budget didn't allow for a significant amount of support, he actually chose to move into a certified residential setting. So that's where he's now. And it was a bit of adjustment. I'm certainly that he probably didn't want to, but that was the option for him at the time. And we're supporting him in one of our IRAs now.
Okay.
I was just going to add from the faith community inclusion team, I do support some emotional needs, but for aging in place, it does look different. But for emotional support and a little bit of guidance with a few tricky circumstances, I do support people in the Crows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you for joining us. Any other questions? Okay, thank you all so much. We appreciate you joining us and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you to all our
Thank you.
panelists. Really great job. Thank you. And Jillian, you did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.